Welcome. The Bishop's Memorial Service, Dochoki, is usually observed annually at the Buddhist Church of San Francisco during the month of August. So this morning, we gathered to collectively express our gratitude to all those who spread the Dharma teachings and for the contributions made by the deceased bishops of the Buddhist Church of America. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Yoshi Yao. Because the service is being recorded, we ask that you all mute yourselves, please. Thank you. We will begin with a group reading of the Three Treasures, page 8 in the Purple Service Book, and it will also appear on the screen. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves the supreme will. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depths of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in a great assembly as disciples of Buddha, freed from all hindrances, becoming units of true accord in the life of harmony, and a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to find such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu.
Namam Dabutsu, 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 Namam Dabutsu. Jintai Zennen Shobun Hokai Gujin Jin no Kuko Gai Tai Mumyo Yokunu Sesom Yomu Ninno Shishi Jintoku Muryo Kukum Kotai Chie Jimyo Komyo Iso Shin 大仙ガンガサブ最小法加藤生じ未不下な不正上位解任精進如是三昧知恵以上五世特部不行士官一切空一切大安決しうぶ百千億万無量大小衆如五者供養一切使徒諸部不如具道賢聖不客頻如五者諸部世界部不可けぬ主仙道光明師匠変師匠国行税精進一難量量がサプ国土内一五種奇妙道場調整国如内音に無闘争がと愛民道断一切実法来生信念上場意図学校経楽安穏古文神妙世界心象本願の非力少々欲実法世尊知恵無下上領子孫知が信行軽量心思食読中画行生じ人寿不敬
We are grateful to have Reverend Adams in the temple this morning to give his Dharma talk. Reverend Adams is our BCSF Supervising Minister, as well as the San Mateo Buddhist Temple resident minister.
Namam Davuts 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 Namam Namam. I invite you to join me in Gassho. Nyorai Daihi no ondoku wa myoko ni shite mo hozu beshi. Shishu chishiki no ondoku mo hone o kudakite mo shasu beshi to. The debt of gratitude I owe to Amida's great compassion, I will proclaim until my life disintegrates into dust. The debt of gratitude I owe to my Dharma teachers, I will express until my bodily form is finally shattered. Namam Davuts, 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 Namam Davuts. Good morning, everyone. It's truly an honor to be here with you this morning for our Sunday morning service, our Bishop's Memorial Service. This is my first opportunity to join you for this Bishop's Memorial Service here at the Buddhist Church of San Francisco. And this is a service that has particularly profound significance for BCSF, as this temple is the flagship temple of the Buddhist Churches of America, formerly the Buddhist Mission of North America, and this was the headquarters, of course, from which many of our bishops over the generations have served and have really seen this as their base for sharing the Nembutsu teaching throughout this land, throughout the United States and the North American region. And so as we begin today, I begin with these words of Shinran Shonin, the Ondokusan, this expression of our deep gratitude to the Buddha for the wisdom and compassion that are our guides in this life. And as we reflect today, we do so with this sense of wishing to express our gratitude to the true teachers who have come before us, to our Dharma teachers, to these bishops who have led the Buddhist Churches of America with the wish that peace may prevail in the world and that the Buddhist teachings may spread and bring comfort to all those of this land. And so as we think about their lives, there's one bishop in particular that I would like to share some reflections about today, and that is Bishop Koyu Uchida. Bishop Koyu Uchida served as the bishop of the Buddhist Churches of America from 1905 until 1923. Right? So he was the longest serving bishop who served here. And this was before what we now call the BCA was the Buddhist Churches of America. It was during the days of the Buddhist mission of North America. And so when Bishop Uchida arrived, 1905, it was a time of great excitement here in San Francisco. The city was growing and thriving and really kind of coming into its own as an international port city. It was also a time when Japan was becoming more powerful. It had recently been victorious in the Russo-Japanese War, and so there was some kind of anxiety or nervousness about Japan as a rising power. And so the attitude towards people coming into the United States from Japan was not always very welcoming. And so it was at that time that Bishop Uchida came in courageously with this spirit of sharing Shinran Shonin's Nembutsu teaching, and to sort of imagine what it was like for people to arrive in San Francisco. Perhaps many of your ancestors came and arrived around that time as well. Their first point of entry would have been Angel Island, right, where they may have spent a few days, or some spent long periods of time, months or even a year, there waiting to be allowed permission to come into the United States. Bishop Uchida's wife, Mrs. Seto Uchida, describes her experience of coming over from Japan at that time. She said when she arrived, there were very few women from Japan who were here at that time. Men were able to come as workers, but few women were able to arrive. She was able to come through her husband being here, working as the bishop of the Buddhist missions of North America. And she said when she came, she wasn't aware of how to wear a Western-style dress, right? And she said that one of the ministers who was there, Reverend Key, who was there at that time, had to assist her with, explaining how, all of the buttons up the back. And you think about those old-style dresses. She said the waist was really tight and had these long, flowing skirts. How unfamiliar that must have been for her to wear this very foreign kind of garb, which probably was not as comfortable as a Japanese kimono either, but with that wish to become part of this place, right? That wish that the bishops carried forth. We see, many of them in those days wearing, of course, the Western style suit and tie, showing we're here to be a part of this place. We're here to be a part of this country, although not always welcomed with open arms. Right? The following year, in 1906, shortly after they arrived, was a great and tumultuous event for the city of San Francisco. Of course, the great San Francisco earthquake, right, which struck in the fall of 1906. So just the following year after they arrived, this great earthquake. And Mrs. Uchida describes how the temple, the Buddhist Church of San Francisco at that time, was, along with so much of the city, burned to the ground, right? And so in that moment, there was a question of what are we going to do as a community? What is our response? And Mrs. Uchida, as she describes her response, it's truly inspiring what she says. Her way of responding to that was to say that now is the time. Now is the time for me to repay my gratitude to Amida Buddha. All throughout my life, I've lived through all these difficult times, through all the challenges, coming to America, facing discrimination, adjusting to a new lifestyle. Now, the temple, our whole community, everything burned to the ground. And her feeling is a feeling of gratitude for the Nembutsu, for Amida Buddha's compassion, which has sustained her through this whole journey. And so, with this heart of Shinran Shonin, this heart of until my body be crushed, until my bones become dust, I will endeavor to repay this gratitude I've received for what I've received from the Buddha. Having received peace of mind, then her wish to share that peace of mind, to set out to endeavor, to bring peace of mind to the people around them. And so they set to work caring for the people of the San Francisco community. Reverend Uchida, using his leadership skills, using his position as the bishop of the Buddhist Mission of North America, he begins to work to provide shelter, to provide support, to provide resources, to bring the peace of mind that he and his wife receive in the Nembutsu, peace of mind to all the people who are facing difficulty here in San Francisco. And through his leadership, he inspires others to also express this heart of gratitude and to do what they can to support others. When I first came here to the Bay Area, I got to know a longtime Bay Area family, the Furuta family, which was originally based up in Sebastopol, up at what's now the Enmanji Temple. But in those days, the Buddhist Church of San Francisco, of course, was serving the entire Bay Area. That was people's lifeline to the Dharma. Okay? And so Mr. Ichizo Furuta, at that time, was running a dry goods store up in Sonoma. And so he had many supplies that he knew people in San Francisco would need. And so as one who lived deeply in this gratitude, inspired by the leadership of wise teachers like Reverend Uchida, Mr. Furuta, he hitched up his horse to his wagon, right? This was early 1900s, before people had their own automobiles and things like that. He hitched up his horse to his wagon, and he began the journey to San Francisco. Now, as you'll be aware, the Golden Gate Bridge was not completed at that time. And so in order to come to San Francisco, rather than just going across the bay, he went around the bay, right? All around the East Bay, the east side, right? Down and then up the peninsula, up to San Francisco, this long, long journey, right? Hauling his goods, bringing these things to the people of San Francisco, expressing this truth that, well, the people who came here to bring the Buddha's wisdom and compassion may not always have been received with warm and welcome arms, that they were here to be a part of this community, to be a part of the fabric of San Francisco, to live together, caring for and supporting one another in this community, so that the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha could be spread and could thrive, and so that this world that we live in could be at peace. And so when I come here into the Hondo of the Buddhist Church of San Francisco, I am inspired by the leadership of all those who have come before, the bishops who have come to this special place, who built up this temple as a center for the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha, this temple which has been woven into the fabric of the life of this city of San Francisco, of the Bay Area, the state of California, and these United States of America. Later in life, during the 1920s, once Bishop Uchida was established, at the outbreak of the First World War, Bishop Uchida called together Buddhist teachers from all over the world for a Buddhist conference here in San Francisco, thinking about, as the world was entering into a period of great conflict, what can be done? Again, carrying forth this spirit. May the peace of the Buddha's teaching spread throughout this country, throughout this world. And they came up with 4 principles calling for peace, calling for harmony among nations, calling for a recognition that the Buddha's teachings had something to offer this country. And having clarified a clear vision for the peace that could be brought through the Buddhist teachings, Reverend Uchida and a group of other ministers boarded a train and traveled from San Francisco all the way to Washington, D.C., and met with President Woodrow Wilson to share their wish for peace. President Wilson, who following the conclusion of the First World War, of course, was one of the leaders who pushed for the founding of the League of Nations, which went on to be a kind of precursor to the United Nations. And so I believe in my heart that in those days, President Wilson was turning his ears to the Dharma, turning his ears to the inspiration of the Buddha's teachings brought by Reverend Uchida. Of course, President Wilson was not a Buddhist himself, but was open-minded and recognized that this too was part of the fabric. This was something that our Buddhist community had to offer to this nation. And we see this today, continuing this tradition with our Bishop Harada, who was invited to the White House and met with the second gentleman, Mr. Emhoff, and joined in a Buddhist Vesak celebration, carrying on this tradition of our bishops representing the Buddhist wisdom and compassion, this heart of the Ondokusan, that making great efforts in times of difficulty, times of natural disaster, times of war, times of pandemic disease, that the Dharma may spread throughout this country, and that we may all live in peace. So I thank you for coming together today to remember these bishops and to think about how we, like Mr. Furuta, Mr. Ichizo Furuta, can take inspiration from their leadership and express the Buddha's teachings in our everyday lives. So in conclusion, I invite you to join me in Gassho and let us together hear these words of the Nembutsu, which have inspired so many down through the generations. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Nam Manda, Nam, 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 Nam.
Thank you, Sensei, for your wonderful Dharma talk this morning. For our gatha, we will sing the words of Shinran Shonin, Ondokusan, which will appear on your screen. Namandog, Namandog, Namandog. Although today we are honoring all the BCA bishops who have passed on, the bishop whom I am personally grateful to have known and admired was Bishop Kenhei Tsuji. I had the opportunity to work for him as his secretary at the BCA. Although his bigger-than-life image and persona preceded him, he was a humble and people-oriented man who was not above pulling an occasional prank on co-workers and fellow ministers. He treated me like one of his daughters, and I will always be grateful for his many kindnesses towards me. I have never stopped missing Bishop Tsuji, even his corny jokes. And now, for our closing meditative reading, I would like to read Bishop Tsuji's eloquent words from the heart of the Buddha Dharma, written August 27, 1981. It is that time of the year. A single red maple leaf performs a graceful ballet in the cool autumn breeze before it finally joins the other leaves on the ground. During the warm spring days and in the hot summer heat, it gave shelter to countless insects, even giving a part of itself to the hungry bugs. And now it is that time of the year. But before it falls from its branch, it prepares for the future. For next spring, a fresh green leaf will shoot out from the same branch. In its twilight hours, it displayed to the world, without pride, without self-consciousness, its ultimate beauty. Does the human spirit grow more beautiful with each passing day? Or does it become more engrossed in its mortality by creating stronger hands of self-attachment? Is my life reflecting a deeper beauty as I grow older? What karmic influences will I leave for the good of the world? I wonder. In the quiet of the night, I recite the Sanbutsuge. Namanidavits, Namanidavits, Namanidavits. On behalf of the Buddhist Church of San Francisco, thank you for joining today's special service. Thank you to Reverend Adams for leading the Sutra chanting and for his wonderful Dharma talk. And thank you to Zoom coordinator, Kevin Yoza. Are there any announcements?
Okay, I had an announcement. So there is an upcoming session. This is a social media activity, and our good Dharma friend Stephanie Hagio Chin is organizing an initiative for the Jodo Shinshu International Office using the social media platform Clubhouse. And it's a kind of conversation-oriented session, and so there'll be a group of speakers. And next Saturday, August 21st at 11 a.m., there'll be a gathering there. So these young Buddhists will be talking about intersections of identity, Buddhist, Asian American, and young adult. So we have Reverend Matthew Hamasaki, we have Juliet Boast, who's a member of the San Mateo Buddhist Temple, Devin Matsumoto, who's one of the leaders of the Young Buddhist editorial, and Casey Mukai, who's also part of the Young Buddhist editorial. And Juliet actually is also, she's one of the leaders of the Young Buddhist editorial as well, or they are. And so this will be a very interesting session. If you'd like to join, you can go. You need to set up a Clubhouse account. And if you have questions about how to do that, you can go ahead and email me or just reply to the announcement for today's service that you received from the Buddhist Church of San Francisco office, and we can help you get set up for that. But it should be a very interesting session, opportunity to hear the perspective of some of our up-and-coming young Buddhist leaders, and to really appreciate their perspective on the Dharma and what it means to be a Buddhist in America today. Great. So I hope you'll be able to join this session next Saturday at 11 a.m.
If there are no other announcements, this concludes this morning's BCSF Bishop's Memorial Service. We hope you will join us next week for our Shoshinge service. Until then, please stay safe and healthy. Thank you and take care.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Nam Mam Da Butsu. Nam Mam Da Butsu. Nam Mam Da Butsu. Nam Da Butsu.